My son goes to class 8 and he is moving to class 9 now. Till now we have guided him academically at home. Now that he is moving to that higher class, we are into a lot of confusions as to whether to put him in some coaching or the class notes that the class teachers are giving them, and they are insisting that they should write exactly according to the note. That is sufficient. Or the textbooks, how much should they follow the textbooks? For a holistic education, should the textbooks be sufficient, or we should also take help from reference books? To what extent?
Welcome to this episode of Talking It Up. We have with us Dr Mousumi Ghosh and Mrs. Sujata Bose. She is not only a parent, she is also a professor, and she has questions for Mousumi.
My son goes to class 8 and he is moving to class 9 now. Till now we have guided him academically at home. Now that he is moving to that higher class, we are into a lot of confusions as to whether to put him in some coaching or the class notes that the class teachers are giving them, and they are insisting that they should write exactly according to the note. That is sufficient. Or the textbooks, how much should they follow the textbooks? For a holistic education, should the textbooks be sufficient, or we should also take help from reference books? To what extent?
Okay. So, Sujata, the basic question is the learning resources of the child.
Absolutely.
I think that is
Absolutely.
it. Are the learning resources restricted to class notes with typically underlined words being used in the exams? Let's call a spade, right? Or do we overflow to the textbook and thereafter the reference book so that he does well in competitive exams, which is about, let's say, 3 years, 4 years from now? I think that is your
Right.
and a specific questions for many parents. I do not know whether I am the right person to ask such questions, because I believe in love for the subject. I believe that you have to be happy in the long run. Now, well, short-term pains, long-term gains, etc., coinages do go around, but have you ever tried to think that what excites your child? Have you found out subjects or learning areas that excites your child? Is it English? Is it quantitative? Have you?
I have talked to him, but it seems that except for science, nothing interests him.
So science interests him.
Right.
So possibly he will take up science in the coming years. Okay. In science, he is in class
8 now.
Class 8 now, right. So let's talk about physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics,
Right.
computers. I think that's the gamut of science that we're talking
Yes.
about. Okay. Do you use, okay, let's understand why a lot of teachers, a lot of schools encourage class notes with underlined,
Absolutely.
coinages, shall we call.
Yes.
They want students to do well in their so-called board exams. Possibly they are true, they are correct in their own way. But I'm not saying don't use them, but I'm saying that do not restrict yourself to them. At least let's kind of divide the discussion into two parts. One is the learning when you're going through the process, and two, the outcome, one of the outcomes. Though for me, the weightage of outcomes may differ. But then, okay, fine. One outcome is the board exam and the competitive exam. Let's talk about the process first. If the process is solid, outcomes are bound to be good in whichever process you go. One process could be, mugging up the so-called underlined portions, which gives you a positive outcome. One process could be you learn, you go through the subject holistically. For instance, have reading days for the child. Let him read up, if he is interested in physics, a physicist's life. Let him read up a few experiments that can be done. Let him do it at home, at school, and to the nature at large. And let him go through this process. This will have a much longer span, and this will have no contradiction to the class notes. I'm not saying throw away the class notes, I'm not saying throw away the textbooks, but I'm saying that parallelly at least, try to create an atmosphere of excitement for the child, which is not restricted to the class notes at the classroom. I do not know whether I have made myself clear. Please ask me, Sujata, if you need any, because that is what I believe in. And somebody who's gone through this process will not necessarily do badly in the exams. Right. In fact, he may not need any supplementary education outside the school and the lifelong learning which you're encouraging him to kind of undergo.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for answering my question.
I do not know whether I've added to your confusion, but anyway.
The question was about optimization of teaching tools available to a kid. The conflict was about maximizing the use of one. Whether if the kid wants to go towards a certain direction, how to channelize and amplify that want. That was the question from you. And the answer from you was to go with the flow, largely have an empathetic interaction and engagement with the kid and follow on over that. Thank you, Mousumi and Yo, for coming here, joining us in Talking It Up. Viewers, as I said earlier, you can also be part of this episode. Keep subscribing, keep getting updates, and keep writing to us about all the questions that you have in life. Thank you very much.